Hi, guys. Welcome back to Call Me Cordelia, the podcast where we talk about everything under the sun regarding Anne with an E. I'm Ophelia,
And I'm Alexis.
and in this episode, we'll be talking about 3XO9. We're going to be discussing it from the first minute to the last. Alexis, general thoughts?
Yeah, it was a very good episode, obviously. I'm very glad that they went back to Coquette's storyline because we had not really touched on that in a very long time. So it got the sort of forefront that I think it deserves. It was definitely a way heavier episode than what we've dealt with, I would say, all season, but understandably so. It was a lot of different emotions, I think, than what we've been going through. I think the other ones have been pretty good about balancing the heartbreak with the good moments, and this one was pretty emotionally heavy the whole way through. Yeah. What about you?
Um, I really liked the episode too. I really enjoy seeing Coquette's storyline. I was wondering for a while if they pick it up again with enough time left, and they did, and it was thoroughly discovered in this episode. Explored, I mean. Um, yeah, it was just really good. I love when shows pick up history and try to explain it and show it in a very respectful way, but in a very real way. And I think Anne with an E is doing that right now. Um,
Yes.
and I like the balance between this kind of relationshipy drama affair thing and then like real shit. And even Anne at the end says like there are worse things to go through, and it's a nice juxtaposition. Like, yeah, maybe her heart is maybe broken, but this culture of people is being murdered and assimilated and exiled. Like it was a really good episode.
That was pretty much Moira. Like, that line was Moira just like directly speaking to us because as important as Sherbert is to all of us, I mean, obviously, our last podcast notes were 8 pages long, and this one was four, with over half of it being about Coquette. And I think that it was pretty much Moira saying, like, Sherbert obviously is very important. It's a great storyline, but this is way more important. There's more important things right now than what's going on. So I did
Yeah.
appreciate that. This whole storyline with the First Nations people has just been so real, and they haven't been shying away from anything. I mean, it's a terrible part of Canadian history, and they're not afraid to talk about it as accurately as possible. So props for Anne with an E once again.
Because of that, we'll also start with Coquette, her storyline, because we deem it more important than Sherbert. So the first part will be Coquette and everything around that, and the second part of this pod will be about Sherbert. So yeah, Coquette. The beginning scene was about her, and she's fucking traumatized. So
Yeah,
she even though she left because she didn't want to be there and because it was horrible, they did brainwash her in some ways, and it's so like terrifying to see, really.
telling her brother to stop being a stupid Indian, like, for a fact that's because that's what she heard when she was there, and that's awful. Um,
Yeah.
and her mother, but on the other hand, her mother being the absolute best mother about it, not scolding her for yelling at her brother, kind of understanding what's going on and just like holding her while she's sobbing. Oh God, it hurts so bad. But it was um I think usually we wait till like more of it into the episode, but my episode MVP is 100% going to Coquette's mother. This time she was so strong this whole episode and just so persevering. Like, she was not going to give up, and she was so strong about it, but that doesn't mean obviously that it's not hurting her. I feel like a lot of times in TV shows, I think we might have touched on this before, whenever they're trying to portray a female character as strong, a lot of the time that means they don't have any sort of emotion to go along with it. But there was definitely emotion here. she never gave up. I don't think she's going to, obviously, now. So my episode MVP is definitely for Coquette's mother.
Yeah, my MVP is her as well, and I don't know the actress's name, but she is amazing. I
Yeah.
believed her completely. Like the scene between her and Marilla, where she tried to explain what it meant to have a daughter and losing her, and Marilla said, like, you don't need to explain, I get it. I just I started crying because it's such a beautiful scene where it shows that you don't always have to speak each other's language to understand each other and to empathize with one another.
A mother's love also is something that crosses language barriers. Like that's
Hmm.
and that was such a beautiful point to make. Like you don't have to speak the same language, you don't have to be of the same culture to understand the concept of a mother's love. And yeah, that was amazing. I love that they wrote it like that. And me and you talked about this, we Snapchatted about it, but the episode title for this one was called A Dense and Frightful Darkness. And if you happen to not know, the episode titles are coming directly from Frankenstein this season. And so I decided to look up, what the quote was. And I don't know who on the production team is being paid to go through these books and find these quotes to match up with episodes, but wow. So the full quote is from a passage, obviously. And it says, I'm just going to read it because I feel like it's so perfectly ties into everything that was dealt with. I was again allowed to breathe the fresh atmosphere and permitted to return to my native country. I did not participate in these feelings, for to me the walls of a dungeon or a palace were alike hateful. The cup of life was poisoned forever, and although the sun shone upon me, as upon the happy and gay of the heart, I saw around me nothing but a dense and frightful darkness, penetrated by no light but the glimmer of two eyes that glared upon me. And I believe in the book this is about Frankenstein and his monster, but this 100% in the context of the show relates back to Coquette and the trauma that she experienced at the home. I
Yeah.
just think, yeah, there's no better way to wrap it up than that quote. It's just, oof, it's going to we're definitely going to see it continue to affect her, I think, which is not going to be fun, but it's important to see.
And continuing off of that, Matthew and Anne and then her Coquette's parents go to the home to do the so-called school to retrieve her. And we got a very intense scene where Matthew is like he comes out strong, and it was very, it's just hard for me. It was, oh my God, okay. It was very hard for me to watch because you constantly realize that this probably happened. It's, it's TV, so maybe some things are made up or whatever, but these things happened, and there have probably been situations where the parents or the tribe tried to retrieve the children, and it just didn't work. And they were threatened with guns, and even the father got shot in his own tribe, and they tried to take it. It just, you constantly realize that that was real life, and that's why for me it was the most important part of the episode, because like there's nothing, when they show something so raw, like it just takes you by the throat, I think.
Yeah, and once again, I just feel like throwing the white savior trope on its head. Like it's not like Matthew was able to just go there and swoop in and save her. Like Matthew couldn't even do anything about the awful, terrible things going on there, you know? It wasn't like this
Yeah.
white man came and rescued her. But yeah, that scene, the way that it was shot, I've definitely talked about this before, but Anne with an E, the production crew, just has such an amazing talent for shooting scenes to convey the emotions of it with camera angles, with
Yes.
music. Yeah, like for instance, we talked about the Queen's scene right before. The way that it was shot, the dialogue, the music, it made you feel like secondhand anxiety for the kids. And the way that this was shot, it was a different sort of anxiety. Like my stomach, I was just cold all over. Like it was just pure dread, like the stakes and the weight of the situation. And honestly, everyone has been talking about Matthew dying so much this season. As soon as that gun came out, I was like, "Oh, this is it. Like this is how it happens." I was stressed. But yeah, the way that it was shot was oh, they just did such a good job of raising tension and you felt it too. It was like you were standing the way that it was shot also it made it feel like you were standing there in the circle in the midst of the chaos trying to figure out what was going on. You know, they were turning the gun on Anne, they were turning the gun on Coquette's parents, they were turning the gun on Matthew, people were shouting. Like it was yeah, it could have gone very, very badly, very, very quickly, and you definitely sense that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think they used the shaky cam method, which is basically that it's a handheld camera, so that you get this very um kind of a strange feeling, like you feel nauseated kind of. And I think they used that method because most of N with an E is done with
Steady
like a
cam.
still camera, steady camera, thank you. um so yeah, snaps for the cinematography crew. We love you.
Oh, amazing.
Anne is going to write an article, a letter to a
Yes.
newspaper. I wonder how that'll go since we're still in a white country right now.
Yeah, I don't know honestly. Like I don't know how to feel about that. And part of me also feels like can they wrap that all up in the finale? Like everything going on
I
with
don't know.
Diana's character development, obviously Sherbert, but way on top of that, like wrap all that up and then also have Anne write this letter to the newspaper, have people react, and then have that save Coquette. Like I'm very ready to see how they do that if they wrap it all up. Like maybe Coquette's storyline is gonna bleed into hopefully fingers crossed season 4. Yeah, I'm very interested to see that. I'm sure it's going to be amazing as we saw from her past article. At this point, Anne should just become a journalist, honestly. Um, I mean, she might, who knows? But
That's what
yeah,
I've thought of actually. Like a teacher, fine, but I see her more as a journalist. Like she's always out there trying to find the truth, and she wants to be a thorn in the status quo of society. Like she is a born journalist, I think. I don't see her as a teacher whatsoever.
same. Be a journalist, Anne. I'm all for that storyline. Yeah, no, I think the letter hopefully will be very impactful. And just Matthew's support of her doing that, he is really willing to
Yeah.
do absolutely anything for her to help her out. And obviously, he was there. He saw the injustice of it all. Um, yeah, I'm very very anxious to see how this is going to be resolved next episode because honestly, I don't have a theory or I don't have a solution for it. Like I'm just gonna have to see how it plays out on this one.
I want to focus on family because I think that was also quite important this episode, and more specifically, Marilla and Anne. I think Marilla's arc of becoming Anne's mum is kind of finishing up. She started out completely cold-hearted, like she didn't really feel anything for Anne. She was just a guardian, just, very distanced relationship. And now they fight because they care about each other, and they hug the life out of each other because they've missed each other so much, even though they've been apart for 2 days. Um, Marilla has become a true mum, and I think deep down it's something she has always wanted to be,
Yes.
but she just didn't get the opportunity because of life. Um, and just now so beautiful to see her support Anne in every way, but still have that motherly instinct of being like, you're being ridiculous again. Like, I'm not phased, but you should stop right now. Or, we'll talk about Sherwood later, but just her supporting her
Oh
in
God.
her decisions regarding Gilbert. We'll talk about it later. But just family on that front with Marilla and Anne. Like I Marilla Marilla's arc as a mom is done. And I think now it'll probably start with her being on the committee and making a change in the entire town, kind of. But like her and Anne, like it's a done deal. Like they're perfect together right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And oh, sometimes I forget that at the beginning of the season it was kind of touch and go there for a minute. But I yeah, first and foremost, I think, obviously Anne of Green Gables as a whole, as a story that has spanned over 100 years now, like it's it's been about Anne always. It's been about Gilbert. It's been about Anne and Gilbert, but also even above that in the forefront, it's a story about like the family, and I just love how Anne with an E portrays that. Ophelia, you and I both are blessed enough to have a very good relationships with our mothers, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's so nice to see that, and um, also like in terms of me, like we've talked about this before, having adoption in my family and seeing the relationship of an adopted child between their parents, it's the same, and I love seeing that portrayed in such a positive, amazing way. And just seeing Marilla come from like what you said, where she was at season 1, where she was willing to take Anne back, and then to where we are now, it's amazing. Obviously, Matthew and Marilla are 100% her parents. Coquette's father even called Matthew her father at one point during the episode, and it's just the relationship that Anne has with the Cuthberts is just so special, and I love it.
What about Bash and Hazel? Thoughts on that?
Oof. Obviously a lot of stuff that they have to work out. I think mainly I can see where both sides are coming from, but I just think that not the issue, but the source of it is more aligned with Hazel and just the way that she has had to survive for years and years and years, and the walls that she's put up around it. They talked about the way that that bled into kind of the way that she raised Bash, and then mirroring that with how Bash is now raising Delphine, like when his mom says the worst thing you can be is soft, like in this world, and Bash just looks at her and goes and gets Delphine anyways. It Oh, that made me cry a little bit, I won't lie to you, but I don't think she's going to end up leaving. I really do hope that something happens where she realizes that these people, the people that Bash has surrounded himself with, truly care about him, and they're not going to turn on him. They love Bash. In the words of Anne, Bash is basically her family, just like Gilbert. Um, so yeah, I really I'm ready. I'm waiting, ready to see Hazel's development also.
I um I have to collect my thoughts. Jesus. Okay. Um I think it was really interesting getting the backstory of Bash and Hazel and just his family in a way that sounds very casual. Like it's not like an episode dedicated to the backstory of Bash. Like no, it's like very casually slipped in between, but it's still very hard hitting. Like his father was hanged.
Yeah,
That
lynched.
like I just cannot. I had to rewind the episode a bit because I thought I misheard. His father was hanged. His mom was afraid show love because who knew what the white people would do. Like it's just and therefore Bash felt neglected and it may be weird to correlate him with Anne, but Bash and Anne both found lightness in the world despite being treated horribly. And obviously, Anne has more chances than Bash, but I think you can kind of see the similarities in some ways. I hope I'm not offending anyone right now, but um, yeah, I just his backstory is very touching.
Yeah, it was again, it was very difficult, and it I just love her character writing on this show so much because the backstory made so much sense to how the way that Bash feels about Delphine, the way that he feels about the way his mother raised him, the way that she raised him, period. It all makes sense. None of it is unbelievable. And yeah, I mean, it was rough. I do hope that she stays, though. I think that she will end up staying.
They also have great chemistry. Like they have these little comedic moments, and it just works. Which definitely lightened the scenes a little bit. I liked it. And did you see her face when she opened the door for Anne, and Anne was being like, "Oh my God, you're Hazel," ba, 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 ba. And Hazel was so done because she just cannot understand like another white girl being nice. I'm just gonna let her in. I'm not even gonna care. Like I'm just
She just was so defeated, honestly, when
yeah.
she let Anne in. She was just like, yeah, I mean, I guess.
Okay. I can't believe they gave us a cat and mouse story with a Pavlovian twist for Gilbert.
Ah, it hurts so bad.
Oh, guys, if you don't know what Pavlov is, it's like a psychology thing about where you see an object and you get reminded of the person that gave you the object, and that's like kind of trying to manipulate them. Obviously, Anne isn't manipulating Gilbert, but it reminded me of like that psychology trick of Pavlov. So it's Pavlovian twists.
Oh, it hurt.
Elaborate, Alexis.
Oh my. Okay. So yeah. So Sherbert. um. As soon as Anne said, "I will leave a note," I immediately looked to my friend and I said, "That note is not getting to Gilbert." And I knew that, but still, the entire episode was just me being like, "No, not under the vase. No, why is there water near that? Bash, look down. Bash, look down on the table." And then it was on the floor, and then it was on his boot, and then it just wasn't there anymore. And I disappointed but not surprised. I feel like pretty much sums that up. So the note for one thing, which dear Gilbert, I'm sorry I was confused before. I'm not anymore. I love you. And P.S. Please give me my pen back. Pen stands. I don't know how you're feeling right now, but I'm sure pretty good. Um, yeah, wow. It was painful, but somehow I knew that's what was going to happen. It was just a matter of watching it
I
play out.
didn't.
It physically hurt. No, I
I
knew as soon as she got on the horse, I was like, there is no way she's getting to him on time. There is no way.
well, no, of course. But when she said I'll write him a note, I was like, oh yeah, it'll get to Gilbert. It's fine because
No.
obviously he won't get to Winifred on time because I'm a dumb bitch. So um
Yeah.
I what I
I
did what I did love about the note is that Anne Shirley Cuthbert has the biggest vocabulary of all of Canada, and she uses these simple plain words because she needs him to understand because they have been communicating poorly. So she's like, I was confused, not anymore, I love you, bye, and can I have my pen back, please? Like, That's it. Really.
And before, when we've had letter writing between them, she's had to start and
Yes.
start again like a few different times, and she didn't have to this time. Like she knew exactly what she needed to say. Um, but yeah, no, as soon as she said, "I'll leave him a note," I was like, "Oh, well, that's not getting to Gilbert." But I didn't know it was gonna be so unbelievably painful. Like Bash literally just had to look down on the table and see it, and Gilbert was touching the note. It was on his boot. Moira Wally Beckett, I don't know what your game is, but this is my life. This is not a joke. And wow. But yeah, we start the episode with Anne come or we start Anne's storyline with Anne coming down the stairs, literally barely able to function after her revelation that she's in love with Gilbert Blythe. Um, and saying the whole why would he ask me so late and so sudden? We've been talking about this, and obviously is oblivious because it has not been sudden. It has been coming on and it has been playing out in so many different ways for 3 seasons. And Ophelia, tell me how you felt about, because we said we were going to come back to it, the Marilla and Anne conversation that ensued right after that.
I loved it. It's a very good conversation. I'm sorry, guys. Like, English sometimes doesn't work. Anyway, um, I loved it because it's a callback to John Blythe, Gilbert's father, which we don't get often. So it's nice to see him reoccur in conversations sometimes. Um, yeah, just again, like Marilla fully supports Anne, and she wants her to make her dreams come true. And if that involves Gilbert, then it involves Gilbert, and that's fine. And it just reminds me of me and my mom too. I feel like I talk about my mom every episode, but we have a very similar relationship. Like I talk with her about anything. Um, so it was very relatable being like, Mom, I have a crush. Oh, really? Again? Like, it's just a very relatable situation.
Yeah, and the turnaround in their conversation from Marilla said, "Are you quite sure it's love?" And when Anne is basically like, "Yes." It's not just Marilla being like, "Oh, cute. Well, you should definitely pursue that." Like you can see the desperation in Marilla's voice because she's not just like discounting this as like a little silly crush. Like she's understands the importance of it partially because she's lived through it, but the importance she's like you have to go to him right now. Like tell him how you feel right now. She understands the weight of it and she feels the weight of it. Um and I just really appreciated that. And then also I just have in my notes if I have to listen to Anne say that she loves him one more time, I'm going to throw myself out of this window because she said it so much in this episode. She said it to
I
Marilla
feel
and then
like
she said it to Matthew.
I feel like once you admit it to yourself, like you just keep going. So it's kind of yeah. Do you think Gilbert will find the note in the next episode, or do you think they will talk in person or whatever? Like, what if the next morning he walks down and sees that note on the ground? Like, what do you think?
Um, no, I don't think he's going to find it. Yeah, I don't think he's going to find it only because sort of the way that it was shot, it was so ruined and pounded into the ground. I think it was kind of implying like, well, that's a lost cause. However, I did talk to you about this, but I could definitely see a scene where Gilbert comes back from Charlottetown, um, and him and Anne are talking. I'm a sucker for like arguing scenes that lead to an exasperated shout of like I love you kind of deal. But I could see a scene of like Anne's like, you got like I poured my soul out to you in that letter and like you didn't even respond to it, and he just looks at her and is like, what letter? And then Anne, oh my god, Anne looking directly at him, because she said she had that conversation with Diana. She just has to tell him. She can't, or she has to ask, like she can't read into his mind. So if Anne looks him dead in the face and just recites exactly what she said in that letter, just saying, I'm sorry I was confused before. I'm not anymore. I love you. There aren't, I don't have a reaction actually to how I'm going to react to that. I don't know. Do you think he's going to find it? Because I don't really think so.
Now that you gave me this alternative, no, I'd rather have your option. And I want to quickly like note on the fact that Anne is breaking all the rules of courting and writing a love letter to a boy and bringing flowers to the boy. Like
Mm,
I love that so much. Like
amazing.
just like who like no girl does that. Not even right now. You don't get as a girl, you hardly ever give flowers to the guy. Like I love her so much. Maybe let's go on to Gilbert because I think he had a very interesting journey this episode that none of us expected for him to have, I
I
think.
wasn't ready for that.
Let's start with the first thing on his path, which is the music he hears in the Barry household when Diana is playing piano, and it's
Ooh.
coincidentally the same tune as when they were dancing in school. I didn't realize because it's a different instrument, so I just didn't realize. Um, but the fact that he did means like even though it's a different instrument, he can still recognize it,
Oh
and
my god.
like it's such a jump in his mind. It like wow. And how he smiled, I cannot.
Diana Barry inadvertently being our Sherbert ship first mate. I'm sorry. Last time I said I fired Diana lovingly, and it's Bash now as my Sherbert captain, but she is my first mate. Um, and her unknowingly doing that. Also, the fact that it was a completely new shot from the dance scene. It was not one that we had seen
Really?
previously. Yes, and it murdered me. Yes, I only know that because I watched the dance scene every single day for that whole episode. So I would know. But yeah, just him reminiscing on that, and again, like you said, the smile. Imagine being about to propose to somebody and all you can think of is that time you danced with another girl. Gilbert Blythe can relate. Um, I also, for one hot clown second, thought that Diana was going to come through for us and stop Gilbert instead of just lurking in the doorway, but I guess not. I guess I can't have everything I want.
Yeah, I love Diana too this episode. She was just trying to make this happen. She was running from house to house, always being too late. Like she just walked bursted into the into Green Gables being like, "Anne, where are you?" Just so funny.
A true best.
Yeah. So first the music, then we have the plates when they're rebuilding the school, which is a good thing. By the way, side note, they're rebuilding the school.
Love
That
it.
he finds the plates that they used for the uh, protest, and again, like he's just so fond, and it's just ah, I I cannot like speak about it because it's just so mind-boggling to me.
Well, and how that scene, I guess this also kind of is like the segue into the next thing that he saw, but when he picks up the plates, he's smiling so fondly at it, and Billy opens his big fucking mouth and starts talking and no one cares. But also the fact that Moody was kind of like trying to be friendly, like, oh, like, when do you get hitched? Like, are you going to stay in Charlottetown? And Gilbert is having none of it. He yeets out of that conversation. He just straight up leaves. Like, he's doing a job, he's rebuilding the school, and he just goes. Like, he says, no, I'm not dealing with this. And that's like what we were saying last time, or I think 2 episodes ago, where he was sitting there with Anne and people start talking about Winifred around him, and he just looks at Anne and looks like he wants nothing to do with the conversation. It's the same thing. Like, they're talking to him about this girl that he supposedly is about to propose to, and he wants none of it. He just wants to leave. The music was, him admiring Anne's spirit, her joy, like her playfulness, and then you go and you see her passion, her fire, like her activism, and that's another thing that he loves about her, I think. Yeah, and then transitioning into the third one, which
The
Ophelia.
seashell
Oh my god.
at the story clubhouse. First of all, he knows where that fucking story clubhouse is,
That's what I
meaning
was
and
thinking.
meaning and probably showed him one way or another. So that's the thing. But speaking of, I think that's really nice of you to say, like the music is showing the more lightness about Anne, the more romantic side of Anne. Then you have the plates, which is about her activism and her bravery. And then you have her seashell, which is about her imagination and how free spirited she is, which is a big part of her. And he is fond about it. Like, he likes that she's telling pirate stories when she's drunk. He likes that. Um,
I think that, yeah, they're all just the separate things that Gilbert really specifically loves Anne for, and that hurts. And maybe I'm reaching a little bit with this, but also probably not. Knowing the Anne with an E writers. But the fact that, last season, season 2, we really knew that the sea, like the ocean, was going to be a big theme of it, and it was a big thing connecting
God.
Sherbert together, obviously, because we had that parallel of them on the ocean. But again, with the ocean being this super big important thing, like the fact that he found a seashell of all things, and obviously the parallels of them on the exact same fucking sea cliff thinking about each other. um yeah, I if they end back up in that exact spot to like together at any point during the
Alexis,
show, that's it, I'm tapping out.
don't.
No,
Don't.
I'm tapping out.
I'm,
I can't do it.
I'm trying to stay calm. Anyway, when Gilbert stood on that cliff looking over the ocean, before that happened, I thought, oh, he's just reminiscing about Anne. He's being fond. He's doubting himself if he should marry Winifred. But I think once he stood on that cliff, I felt like he was saying goodbye to Anne and Avonlea and
Ow.
everything around it. Because I really think up until the morning after, where he was debating between the seashell and the ring, he genuinely felt like he was saying goodbye. And I think him standing on that cliff was just soaking it all in, the ocean, the grass, the trees, just Avonlea of itself, and all these memories of Anne that he has reminisced about throughout the day all settles into his body, and he says goodbye to everything. And I think him realizing he's saying goodbye makes him hesitate the morning after, which
Yeah.
you have a good theory about, actually.
um Yeah, are you talking about I just don't think he's proposing at
Yeah,
all. I'm not sold on it. Um, the face that he makes when Winifred opens the door is not a face of nerves. It's the face of apology. Again, we've talked about this before, but just when you have watched a show for long enough, you start to pick up on the actors' micro expressions and certain physicalities that they start to use for their character and their character's specific emotions. And that did not feel like a happy Gilbert to me. Um, I think that the seashell and the ring, like right there, was very clearly a choice. Like that was the crossroads. And I think he chose, quote, like the seashell. And actually, Anne's Snow Queen on Tumblr posted something about it, and it murdered me, so I'm going to bring it up now. They used more music parallels for this episode, and specifically the one that I'm about to talk about. The music that they play when he's in his room, um, looking at the shell in the ring, it's the exact same music cue that they were playing when Mary told him to marry for love and only for love. So just with that, obviously I didn't pick up on that in the episode, but just going through everything and the shell and the ring, I don't think there's any way he's proposing. I don't see it. I think, can you imagine a scene where he goes back and Anne's like fucking rambling and she meets up with him like on the cliff and she's rambling and she's not really saying anything, but she also kind of lets it slip that she's in love with him. But she's like, congratulations on your proposal, and he's silent the whole time until he says, I didn't propose. Yeah, basically I'm dead, but I don't think he proposed. Bottom line, I'm not sold on it at all.
I agree. I thought he would the second I saw him at the door, but after talking to you and going on Tumblr, I realized like it's not possible. Also, if he would have proposed, they would have fleshed out her character more, which they didn't for that reason of him not proposing because, well, yeah. Yeah, thank you and Snow Queen for that parallel. Like that's some good sleuthing.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
Yeah. Like, why
Um,
are we making a podcast? They are the smart people.
I know. They're the ones with brain cells. We're just screaming about sherbet. Yeah, no, I honestly, um, this, and we'll get more into this at the very end. We were going to do some predictions for what we think going into the finale, but I honestly, I could see it like the whole episode. They're kind of making it look like maybe he proposed. Like he's shaking hands with Winifred's father. You can't really read their expressions.
Oh
He's
my
leaving
God.
Winifred's smiling. Um, he's on the train. Like you're not quite sure. And then they have that whole conversation I just laid out where he just is silent the whole time. Anne's rambling and he's like, I didn't propose. And then both Anne and the audience simultaneously ascend the astro plane and die. Um, I, yeah, and maybe I'm a clown, but I don't think he proposed. And I think that's going to be the point of next episode. Also, one of the things that I found very interesting about this one was the lack of Gilbert's lines in this one. It was just it was very effective, but he didn't speak hardly at all in this episode.
Yeah.
He had a few interactions with, he had that one with Moody and Billy where he briefly said a few things, and then he,
With
I
Mr.
actually think
Barry.
that was it. Oh, he talked to Mr. Barry, and that was literally it. The
I
rest of the scenes were completely silent.
I want to talk about that. With that little Barry scene, the fact that he had to ask Mr. Barry if she would like the ring because it's not of much value, it's just like a simple ring, means he has no clue who Winifred is. Like,
Yeah.
if he knew her, he'd know if she preferred something new or something that has more sentimental value. Like he would know that, but he knows nothing about her. yeah, that's just something I wanted to add to that.
Also, also with the berry scene, the fact that I thought for a split second that everyone or some people were correct that Minnie May was going to be our savior. For a hot second when she got off of those stairs, I was like, "Oh my god, is Minnie May actually about?" Because I didn't really believe the theory. I wasn't totally sold on it, but when Minnie May was left the stairs, I was like, "Holy shit, is Minnie May about to save us all?" And then she didn't. She actually just set us back. So, in all the past episodes where Minnie May has been my fake episode MVP, she's not even a fake MVP anymore. She's my character hit list. She's on my blacklist for characters at the moment. So no, thank you, Minnie May. Um, so one of the other things that I really loved about everything going on with Sherbert was the conversation between Diana and Anne. When they're sitting at that one spot that they've had quite a few conversations with, or at this point in time, was so funny to me because it sounds like a transcribed conversation that I would have with one of my friends about boy problems. Um, Specifically, Diana saying, "You bared your soul in a note. Without boys, we are gloriously free. He gave another girl his mother's ring. You don't need him." I loved that so much. But then Anne, once again, breaking sort of the norms of the time, and even now, her saying, "Why am I doing this to myself? I can't see into his mind. You know what I can do? I can ask. Even if his words are hurtful, I will have facts and I will recover. There are plenty worse things than hurt feelings, believe me." Um, Obviously relating that back to Coquette, but also way to fucking call me out, Anne. I am not brave enough to just bare my feelings like that to somebody. And yeah, I loved that. I loved that line.
I can just
Um,
imagine several like girl group chats just being like, "Did you see what Anne did?" Like, I would never.
I
Like,
would
a girl
never.
group chat is very interesting to be in. Anyway,
And then of course,
um,
my last point really on Sherbert is just or actually two, but the throw that little line where she's talking about Bash and she said he's basically like my family, like Gilbert. I'm gonna choose to ignore that and pretend I didn't hear that. But I guess my final point, like the bottom line of all of this Sherbert, I have like 4 or 5 different people in these notes as I was writing them while watching the episode. I said, "Oh my God, is Diana gonna come through? Let her talk to Gilbert." And then I was like, "Oh my God, is it actually gonna be Minnie May?" And then I said, "Is Moody gonna come through and kind of show him that he shouldn't be marrying Winifred?" And then I said, "Wait, is Bash gonna come through?" And the fact that none of these people did, uh, even though I briefly thought maybe they would, I think kind of proves that in the end, like after all of this, the burden of figuring it out and fixing it rests on Gilbert, and it's going to have to be from him. No one can quote like come through and save Sherbert except for Gilbert. I think it's all on him at this point. And what do you think about
yeah,
that?
yeah, I agree. Like, Anne has tried everything now, on a very short period of time, so it's all on him now. Like the yeah.
Yeah, and the
Um,
note too, like you said, Anne has done everything. I mean, she kind of tried to like tell him with the note, which the fact that it was being framed as like a big deal that Gilbert was not getting this note, the fact that it was being framed that it was kind of vital for Gilbert to get this note, once again just proves that all it takes, all it's going to take to change Gilbert's mind is Anne telling him that she loves him. Like if he had found that note, everything would have changed. And I think that's definitely the point they're trying to make with how uh frustrating it was sort of being filmed as the fact that Gilbert was not getting this note, if that makes sense.
I want to quickly touch upon Miss Stacy and Bash, and then go on to our short list of predictions and then quickly do the Q&A because we have only one question. So I'm not for Miss Stacy and Bash. I hope they'll just be friends. Yeah, that's it. I don't, even though a biracial couple would be interesting to see, I'm not for it because it's just a disrespect towards Mary.
Yeah, I'm still not I'm still pretty much on the same thoughts that I had when we talked about it last episode, just that in order for me to ship it, I'm really going to have to be sold on it. Specifically, the fact that they didn't just kill Mary so that they could put Bash and Miss Stacy together, which I don't think that they did, but it would be too easy to come off that way if that makes sense. So if they could do it well, then, I guess maybe, but I'm not sold on it yet. I also very much am all for where they're at now, just they're obvious, not what they're maybe alluding towards in the future, not what they're potentially going to do with it, where they're at right now, where they're just good friends and companions. I'm all for that. But in terms of a ship, yeah, I'm not sold.
So now we'll go on to your short list of predictions. You've written something down. For me, it's just wrapping up Coquette, wrapping up Anne's heritage storyline because we still don't know anything about Scotland. And yeah, see how the slow burn's doing. So, what about you?
I agree, except for I think that maybe the Scotland plot line is going to be that little thread that they drop at the very end that could be used for next season specifically. Um, Similar to what they did like in
Oh, yeah.
season 1 where they like ended on the thieves showing up at the door and it's like, "Oh no, what's going to happen? I hope they get another season," but it's not like vital that right now. You know what I'm saying? I think maybe it will end with Anne getting a letter from a relative because she sent the letter out. Yeah, just maybe just Anne, like that will be the continuing storyline from next season.
That would be interesting.
But I don't think they're gonna leave anything too big on a cliffhanger because again, they just don't know. But that's something that could definitely be used as a plot for next season while also not being like a huge deal if they don't perfectly wrap it up next episode. But in terms of Sherbert, again, I'm still 100% convinced Gilbert did not propose. I think he might use the L word next episode because I've talked about this, but
He
just the
will.
oh my
He will.
god, just the script and the like writers have been doing acrobatics to get around Gilbert actually saying the word. I mean, he's definitely implying it, like the fire scene, and said, I think he was telling me he loves me. Like, I think he felt it too. We've been seeing hints for 3 seasons, whereas Anne, apparently, this is all sudden to her. But we've been seeing hints for like 3 seasons, and Gilbert, even when he was talking to Bash, he said, if I have a dot 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 feelings for a girl, is that who I'm supposed to marry? Just the acrobatics. He has not said it yet about Winnie, about Anne. So I really think they're saving it for the official canon. And honestly, again, maybe I should just go ahead and get my clown makeup out, but I think they're saving it for this episode. I think he's going to say it.
Oh my god.
Oh my, I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. Yeah, I think Gilbert's going to say he loves her, but I will say I'm not, like I said before, I'm very confused kind of about this Coquette storyline wrap up. I hope that they can do it all next episode, but it just kind of feels like there's so much to do, you know?
Um, then we have a short Q&A from They Are Going Away. Thank you for putting in your question. We've answered most of it. but not the last one. So we'll answer that one because the others are about Coquette and Hazel. So do you think Matthew is dying this season? I think not. I think that would be very abrupt. I think it wouldn't make sense. And he has much more to do, I think, before he dies. His arc isn't finished yet.
Uh, yes, I agree. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to kill Matthew. If they were going to do it at all, I would have said it would have had to have happened either this past episode or the episode before that, but definitely not in the finale. I think, honestly, at this point, I'm not sure they're going to kill Matthew at all. I mean, eventually he's going to die, like they're older, but I don't think they're going to do it actually because I feel like one, the fake out in season 1 was kind of Moira's first hint hint nudge nudge, I can do whatever the hell I want with this show because it's an adaptation, similar to what she did with the Lily Maid scene. Everyone was screaming at her for that, and she said she teased us with it. So I think that's honestly maybe what she was doing with Matthew, especially because Mary dying this season was almost kind of the equivalent of that, a very big traumatic life-changing death of someone who was pretty much like a parental figure to Gilbert. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too hopeful, but I don't know if they would kill him at all, but definitely not this season.
Uh, I think that is all. I don't have any other notes. Do you, Alexis?
I do not. Let's end this podcast with general. How are we feeling going into the finale of Anne with an E season 3?
I am emotionally, physically, and spiritually not ready for anything that is bound to happen. I will die and then, like a phoenix, just come out of the ashes again, renewed, but still not okay because my memories will still be there. Because I know it'll be the most iconic ending so far of Anne with an E. So yeah, that's basically how I'm feeling. What about you?
I think the one word that I can use to sum it up is just unprepared. I part of me I have this really bad habit in shows of like it's not that I don't just not get my hopes up, it's that I literally set my hopes to the lowest possible setting that they can go to. So like we talk about Teen Wolf as an example, but when we knew that 516 was about to happen, I literally in my head was like, okay, so Styles is gonna die, and Lydia is going to run right off into the sunset with Parrish, and Scott is going to die. Like I literally was like thinking of the worst case scenario possible, and I was convincing myself that was going to happen because that way, if anything better happened, I wasn't disappointed. I was just going to be happy. So I'm trying not to do that this time, but it's really hard for me to not set my expectations incredibly low, especially with everything that's been going on. It's almost impossible to. It's almost impossible to not have very high expectations about everything, particularly Sherbert going into the finale. But essentially, right now, we are either only waiting 5 days for Sherbert to get their shit together, or we're gonna have to wait another year and a half and pray that we get renewed. So, not stoked about that, but I trust Moira. I trust the writers. I really think everything will be okay, and I'm super excited about it.
Okay, then I think that is it for this podcast, episode 11. We're going strong.
Woo!
Um, if you want to talk to us, you can go to Call Me Cordelia podcast on Tumblr or on our personal blogs. Mine is Lydia's dash dash styles.
And mine is at Sherberts with two S's. You can find me on Tumblr or on Twitter with that.
And I suppose that is it. Thank you so much for listening. We are having a ball doing these every single week. So yeah, bye guys.
Bye.